Hey everyone, I'm Jay Smith, and this is Bradley Kendall, and this is After Further Review, where we're going to do our best to cover the entire college football landscape for you in 60 minutes or less. So Bradley, after further review?
It was March Madness in November this weekend.
No kidding.
Upset City all across the
Half
board.
of the top 10 went down in a week that was pretty much unprecedented in terms of upsets.
Yeah, since 1985, that's the first time that 2, 3, and 4 have all lost, and you tack on, Auburn and then Texas A&M, and it was just a week full. Nobody was safe.
And remember the thing about that week back in '85, the reason that number 1 did not lose is because they played the number 2 team in the country.
And ironically, that was Iowa and Michigan.
And so by default, you had to have a winner of that game, and so that not all the top 4 could have lost. But yeah, I mean,
Harbaugh is not exactly fond with Iowa anymore. He had his struggles back then in '85, and now it's deja vu all over again for him.
I mean, we've been talking kind of about Clemson and how we were not necessarily worried about their luck running out per se. It was just kind of a realization that they weren't performing up to peak. They weren't. I mean, they were
playing with fire week in and week out.
They were taking care of business, but they just there were things here and things there that they could have improved upon. So we kind of. I guess I don't want to say we saw it as inevitable, but it doesn't come as a shock.
It really doesn't.
Whereas, a game like Michigan and Iowa, and even USC, who's really kind of been mediocre at best this year, being able to take out Washington, holding Washington to third. I mean, Clemson scored
on the road. Yeah.
Clemson scored 42 points. I know it was at home, but Michigan and Washington only put up 13 points.
Yeah, and Michigan's quarterback was hurt during that game, so that obviously has something to do with it.
But still, serious lack of offensive production for those two teams.
Really surprising for two teams that led. You're talking about stats earlier in the year. Two teams that were really up there offensively in stats.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So we'll start with some stats from the Pittsburgh Clemson game, and as we were talking about before, the offense was definitely not lacking for Clemson at all. I think Deshaun set an ACC record for passing yards.
It was 580.
580 yards,
and I think he had 70 passing attempts.
Yeah.
Which is a school record. I think the 580 yards passing is also a school record.
Yeah, exactly. He had the ball literally every single play, and he was doing something with it. But obviously, everyone's going to look at those 3 interceptions out of those 70 passes.
Well, 2 in the red zone.
Yep.
And you look at those 2, and that's really almost could be a 28-point swing if you're able to put those 2 in the end zone.
Absolutely.
And I know one, if not the other, red zone interception was returned for
70 yards
for a substantial, good field position for Pitt to start out their drive after that turnover, and I think they were able to capitalize off of turnovers. Which, if you go up against a good team, like if Clemson, let's say, makes the playoff, and they're going up against a team like Alabama or Michigan or whoever they play, and you throw 2 interceptions in the red zone, Michigan or whoever you're playing may turn around and be able to do exactly what Pitt did to you.
And it's just unlike Deshaun to make those kind of throws. I mean, we've seen him from last year. He's really been able to depend on him to get us through these adverse environments. But gosh, those 2 interceptions in the red zone, I mean, that absolutely just killed us though.
Yeah, going back and I tried to go back and watch some of the game, and I don't feel like he I think he did a good job kind of trying to go through his progressions and make, I guess, an intelligent football decision on getting, let go of the ball. But at the same time, I feel like he was almost trying to do too much.
Yeah, I think he was.
And he's trying to,
I think he felt that pressure from earlier this year of, I'm turning the ball over. I'm not playing as well. I need to really step my game up.
He's thrown a lot of interceptions.
He's thrown a lot of interceptions. He's up to probably 13 or 15 now or something like that.
And the turnover bug, that doesn't just disappear. So there's something has got to change. These last couple weeks.
And I've kind of been saying before that the interceptions are a little bit easier to fix because fumbles are just kind of out of nowhere and just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But it didn't show signs at all that I have any faith in Deshaun fixing the interception bug.
I wouldn't necessarily say that interceptions are easier to eliminate. I think turnovers as a whole kind of affect the mentality and the way that you play the game. Kind of makes you play scared in a way. But obviously, learning moment for Clemson.
Yep.
Hopefully Dabo will use this as a way to kind of get the guys ready. Clinch the ACC with this game against Wake this weekend. Move on, win the Palmetto Cup, I think is what it's called.
Win the 3 championships. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Take care of business against USC, win the ACC championship, and then they'll have shots.
Work our way from there
for a postseason bid. Moving on, though, we looked at, obviously, we talked about it a second ago with Michigan and Iowa, and the Hawkeyes. I don't think they ruined Michigan's season.
They definitely made them less give them a less likely chance to make it.
The Big Ten now is in chaos because if Ohio State is able to beat a somewhat crippled Michigan team, we could be looking at a Penn State or a Wisconsin Big Ten champion. I feel Wisconsin
I would take them probably over Penn State. I'd
Yeah.
feel more comfortable with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Big Ten is just so many moving parts right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, a lot more is riding now on that Michigan-Ohio State game because now it involves Penn State's season.
Yeah.
Well, if Ohio State ends up winning that, which, based on reports from today, Michigan's quarterback looks like he tore a labrum or something like that in his shoulder. So that's definitely not going to help. If you have Ohio State winning that game, Penn State and Wisconsin, out of all odds, you're playing for the Big Ten championship.
And, looking at USC and Washington, again, another team that really hadn't had a hiccup until this point in the season.
Yep.
Came very late, week 10, lackluster performance all the way around. And the difference, I feel, between the Clemson loss and the Michigan loss versus this loss by Washington, Clemson and Michigan lost by last-second field goal by 1
Washington
point.
got handled.
Washington was pretty much out of this game by the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
It was like...
USC beat them in every phase of the game.
It was a much more thorough beating. Now, granted, Clemson was playing at home. Michigan, I guess you could say the quarterback is more of an excuse, but Washington may have some serious questions. And I know I've been high on Michigan and Washington. And look, I'm okay with them losing this week because with Clemson, with everything that happened with Clemson, I can't really say I'm disappointed that Michigan and Washington both went down. In addition to Auburn and A&M, I still think that they're very good teams, but obviously these three teams have questions going into the last 2 weeks of the season. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and really a shock, I think, was Georgia beating Auburn. I think that's kind of a crazier upset.
You kind of saw that maybe it could be a trap game for Auburn, looking ahead to Bama, possibly because they did control their.
Really call that a trap game?
They did control their.
Georgia
has been very lackluster this year, though. I mean, they really haven't had things clicking. But 7 yards for Auburn. Didn't get any rushing going at all.
7 points.
Or 7 points, yeah.
Right.
Didn't get any of the rushing attack going at all, which is something they've been kind of known for this year. And being held to 7 points.
Yep. And that goes again. We had 5. Top 10 teams go down this week. 3 of those teams lost by 1 point.
So it was down to the wire.
Yeah, A&M lost by a point to Ole Miss, 29-28. Clemson lost to Pitt, obviously, by a point. And then Iowa beat Michigan by a point, and those 2 games were on last-second field goals. I don't think Ole Miss beat A&M on a last-second field goal.
No, they came back. I think they scored a last-second touchdown.
So, again, very close games. And you could argue that just validates the depth of certain conferences. Or you could say that shows serious questions about different teams and so forth. So there was a lot to take in this week.
I think the gap between Alabama and the rest of the teams out there.
Alabama's I think they're a lock.
Got a little bit bigger.
I think they're a lock at this point because that they're gonna be prepared for every game that they play. I don't see them tripping up.
And even if they do trip up to say Auburn, they
because
already are in the SEC championship game.
You can already make the argument that if they lose a game, they're better than any one-loss team in the country.
Absolutely. They
would have to lose twice, and even then, they could still.
They could still, even with a loss, stay at number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, it's arguable. Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on, though. We're going to look at the ref segment and do 5 good questions. So let me go ahead and get the trusty yellow flag out, and we'll go ahead and begin. I want to move you. I don't want to knock your computer out.
Yeah, thank you for watching out for me.
First question: did the Big Ten self-destruct its college football playoff hopes this weekend and cement either Penn State or Wisconsin as its future champion?
I don't think it really self-destructed itself. I think it just honestly added a few more teams that could possibly win it because now Penn State is in their potential to make it in.
Well, I'm not talking about winning the conference. I'm talking about college
making
football playoff berth. And when you talk about college football playoff berth, you're talking about winning a championship.
Good point.
Because nobody wants to go to the semifinal and lose.
I do think, though, with how strong the Big Ten is this year, the winner of that, if they have 1 or 2 losses, is probably a pretty good chance they'd get in the playoff. So I think one thing in particular in terms of self-destructing, that Michigan-Ohio State game, if Ohio State's beat Michigan, Ohio State can't even play for the Big Ten championship game.
Exactly. And that's why I'm going to throw the flag on you. Because
I see what you're trying to say.
I'm just saying that if
I don't think it's self-destructed.
You get rid of. If Ohio State beats Michigan, then you've got Penn State playing in the Big Ten championship against, let's just say, Wisconsin. Let's just say Penn State wins that game.
I think you just put them in.
They'll get in. That's not the argument. The argument
Winning a
is,
championship,
does
though.
Penn State really have what it takes to get past
I
the
see what you're
semifinal
saying.
game?
I thought you meant in terms of just making the playoff.
No. College football playoff
Okay.
hopes is in winning a championship. If Penn State and Wisconsin goes to the playoff representing the Big Ten is not going to win a championship that year.
Especially for Penn State. I don't think they
Exactly.
stack up at all.
It's got to
against the
be
big
Ohio
teams.
State or Michigan. So everything is riding on Ohio
Michigan
State
winning, honestly.
and Michigan must win that game.
Now, I do think there still is a chance that the Big Ten could possibly get 2 teams in, depending on how everything shapes out.
That would be there.
It's not very likely, but if Ohio State ends up winning out,
Washington would have to implode.
Washington State could possibly be.
And the
We'll
West
get to
Virginia-Oklahoma game for the Big 12 is also huge. I don't really think the Big 12 is still in it.
I think they deserve at least some consideration.
Has some implications at this point.
So we'll see. I think, they definitely took their chances off a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit more scattered now, I'd say, for them.
Yep.
Next question. Clemson needed a loss before the postseason.
For Clemson, I think so. Honestly, what I was going to say before we were talking about the game, I think I'm really glad they lost now as opposed to later. Because you knew at some point somebody was going to be able to close the game out and beat them and their luck was going to run out. And this was a wake-up call for them, that they need to start strong and finish strong.
Well,
especially
I
to a
think
team
you
like
could
Pitt.
argue that half of their season has been a wake-up call. We've got performances like Troy, NC State,
But a
now
loss is the
Pitt.
ultimate wake-up call.
It
though.
is, but let's be
Yeah.
honest. We were a 33-yard field goal away from losing to
Good point.
NC State.
Very good point.
So I mean,
I honestly
think
kind of would rather have seen them lost.
right. No, I think that Clemson needed a reality check because I feel like we've been playing to lose the last year and a half. With the expectations. I mean, today in Deshaun's presser, you made the comment that like nobody really knew a whole lot about him per se until the end of the season last year when he started doing well, and they won the ACC and they went to the playoff and beat Oklahoma for the second year in a row. And his performance against Alabama, one of the best in postseason history in terms of a quarterback. So ever since that, I feel like Clemson has carried a weight that most upper tier teams carry, and eventually it gets to them. So I agree that I think that they needed that loss to kind of splash some cold water on it and just be like, okay, we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
We can play loose now.
And it's a learning moment too. I mean, Dabo mentioned that. He said we can learn from this, especially in a time like the fourth quarter when it's really crunch time.
Yep.
They can learn what to do and what not to do from there.
First, if I'm not mistaken, first loss the Oculus has ever seen at Death Valley.
I think it's the first home loss since, is it 2013?
It's either 2013 or 2014.
I think it's 2013.
But I don't think we've lost a home game since they put up the Oculus.
Wow.
Until this past weekend. So
it was going strong for us.
It was.
Yep.
Next question. Louisville is no closer to making the playoff after all the chaos from this past weekend.
They absolutely are way closer than they were before. Throw the flag,
okay.
man.
All right. No, I want to hear your argument here.
I think before, it's going to be interesting to see where the committee puts them on Tuesday. I think that's going to be a really big, foreshadowing of where they could end up later in the year.
Okay.
But at this point, with all these teams, like you were talking about the Big Ten kind of imploding, if you possibly get, say like a Penn State or Wisconsin in there, and then you're judging like Louisville versus like a 2-loss Michigan team or something like that, I think Louisville has the best chance to win out at this point. So they'll probably end up being 11-1. And I just think with all that's happened, and now that we're going to see a lot of teams switching, back and forth, I think Louisville's at least inched their way a little closer. I mean,
no, because Bama's going to get in.
Okay.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Clemson's going to beat Wake, so they're going to win the ACC. Let's just say. Play. Most likely what's going to happen here. So we've got Bama, we've got Clemson. Let's say Washington gets everything together and they win the Pac-12. They're a one-loss Washington.
That's not a guarantee.
Well, one-loss Washington, they're in. So you've got one spot left.
They're still going to need some help. I'm not saying they're in.
Even if let's say Ohio State beats Michigan. Okay? Because Michigan's quarterback we're not sure if he's out anymore. We saw reports before the show that he may not be. But regardless, let's just say Ohio State beats Michigan. So now you've got Penn State or Wisconsin. Let's say Wisconsin's the Big Ten champion. So Wisconsin gets in. Well, that's your 4. Well, even if Wisconsin didn't get in, you're going to put in Ohio State over Louisville. Because if you look at the entire season as a whole, I mean, this is the second week in a row that Ohio State's beaten a team 62-3. Now, I don't care who they've played. Okay. They've beaten them 62-3. Louisville needed a fourth quarter rally to beat Wake. Now, I know the final score was not close, but they were losing
One thing that
majority of
really
that
is going to
game.
help Louisville is the Pac-12. If the Pac-12 knocks itself out of the
The
playoff,
Pac-12 has to implode.
That's
Ohio
it.
State has to beat Michigan.
well, not necessarily.
Yes. For Louisville to
necessarily.
get into the playoff?
If
There's
Michigan beats Ohio State's pretty much done at 2 losses, you would think. So Michigan would probably go on to win the Big
If
Ten.
that happens, but let's say Wisconsin or Penn State. Now,
If
if
they win
Michigan
that.
won, then it would be Wisconsin against Michigan. But if Wisconsin wins
Okay.
the Big Ten, and you have a 2-loss Big Ten team and a 1-loss non-conference champion Louisville, the Big Ten's going to trump that because conference championships matter more to the committee. They've already expressed that. So Louisville
Pac-12 is
needs
going to have to implode.
Louisville needs the Pac-12 to implode. They need either Penn State or Wisconsin to win the Big Ten, and they need the Big 12 for the
Well, I think
fifth
Louisville
time
would get
this year
in.
drop off the face of the earth.
Get in before the Big 12, I would think. Just based on what I've seen from the rankings so far.
Not with this bias towards Oklahoma. I mean, they
Okay, but
okay. Well, a 2-loss Oklahoma. If Oklahoma goes on to win, let's just say crazy stuff happens in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten.
so you would take an Oklahoma Big 12 champ.
A
over
2-loss
Lou-
Oklahoma Big 12 champ
Over
over a
Louisville?
1-loss Louisville, absolutely, because they're going to value conference championships. Louisville is no closer to making the playoff than they were last week. There's just too much that has to happen for them. It's like Clinton
Oh, they're still on the
having to
outside
win all
looking in.
those states at the very end of the election night. She had to win like everything, and Trump had to win one. That's Louisville. Louisville has to win.
Of course, Pennsylvania is coming in for both of these.
Everything else has to go Louisville's way. Not one thing can go wrong. Otherwise, they have no chance.
I don't like that whole. This goes back to why, first of all, why we need an 18 playoff.
I've been
Second,
saying that since they announced 4 teams.
do you really think that Oklahoma's better than Louisville? No. This is
I would
this
have
is my
said
concern
no,
about the committee.
but my concern is when Louisville needs a 4th quarter to beat Wake Forest. I know we talked about Wake Forest and they're better than they were this year, but come on.
I know, but when you look at Oklahoma, who got blown out by Ohio State and then lost to Houston beginning of the year, I mean, they didn't look sharp at all. Who have they beaten so far? I mean,
They're over. Like
Big 12
when you
is
look
not
at other
strong.
teams and performances that they've had, I know they've had their good moments. I know they've had their moments, but overall, it would be more likely that a team like Ohio State would get in a 1-loss Ohio State
a one-loss
gets
Ohio
in
State,
over
yes.
a 1-loss Louisville.
But I'm saying that if they lose two
Louisville
games-
needs the Pac-12 to implode. They need Penn State to win the Big Ten, and they need Oklahoma and West Virginia to implode. There's just no way. There's just no way.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
4th question. Even with a loss, let's just say if they did lose, Bama has locked up the number 1 seed in the college football
they're
playoff.
in.
I think we can pretty much agree
We can agree with that.
they're going to lose, and
Unless
even if they lost in the SEC championship to Florida, I think they would get in. They might be a 3 seed or a 4 seed, but they would get in.
Yeah, I think what they're going to need is a really bad loss, or to see a team remember how Ohio State a few years back blew everyone away and worked their way into the playoff. We're going to see a team like Michigan just destroy Ohio State, destroy Wisconsin. So they're going to have to really earn it above Alabama. But I think it's way more likely chance than not that Bama gets the 1 seed.
Last question out of the 5 question. The ACC is the deepest conference this year out of the Power 5.
Ooh, deepest conference from top to bottom? I'd probably have to go Big Ten at this point, just with the rise of Penn State. And then I know Nebraska kind of fell off a little bit, but they're still in the top 25.
Yeah. Well, you have teams like, and I'm just going through the
Minnesota,
Big Ten.
obviously, yeah.
You've got Minnesota at 7-3, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, I think when you look at both sides of the conference, it's way better than any
Now,
other.
when you look at just hold on for a second, because this is surprising, you may know, but I did not realize this until today. So in the Atlantic of the ACC, you have 9-1 Clemson and Louisville. You've got 7-3 Florida State. You've got 6-4 Wake Forest, which for them is a good year
Record-wise.
And then you go into the Coastal, and you've got 2 7-3 teams at Virginia Tech and North Carolina, and you have 3 6-4 teams: Miami, Pitt, and Georgia Tech.
Okay. Wow.
So
I think it's closer than we thought.
it's
they'd be.
closer
Yeah.
than a lot of people, and I didn't really realize that there were that many teams. A game at least above 500 in the ACC.
Oh yeah, record-wise, they're up there. But let's just look at strength of teams, though. Like a Georgia Tech at 6-4, you don't really match that up the
Okay,
same
well,
as
Iowa's 6-4. So who do you think wins that game? Georgia Tech plays Iowa.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
Iowa
Like,
just beat
it's
Michigan,
a fair.
so I don't know.
Granted, but then Pitt just beat Clemson, and Pitt's 6-4.
So yeah, it is close.
It's a fair argument. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's a legit argument that you can make there. It's not the SEC because the SEC
no.
East has been abysmal.
It needs to be taken out of the conference this year. But it is close. But I would still lean towards the Big Ten. But it is a small margin. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, and I'm looking here at the Pac-12. They even have some, Utah 8-2, Colorado 8-2, Washington State 8-2, Washington 9-1. So there's discussion back and forth. I can understand, but I think ACC has a legit argument this year.
Definitely does. Yeah, but I think with Clemson and Louisville up there, you match that up with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin. A lot more top contender teams for the Big Ten. Sure. So.
Now we're going to move on, and I better get out my my $10 bill because we're moving on to the bonus round.
And redeem myself.
What's your record overall?
1-2.
Are you 1-2?
I got the SMU.
I thought we had 3.
So I'm 1-2.
You're 1 yeah. Okay.
I got the SMU.
No, 1 out of 3.
Right. Yep.
1 out of 3. All right. Well, over the weekend, the longest win streak in the NCAA ended. D3 Mountain Union lost 28-31 to John Carroll at home on Saturday. Snapped a 112-game win streak for Mountain Union. This is the first time in 24 years that Union didn't clinch their conference title. Mountain Union has also won how many games consecutively at home before their loss?
So during their win streak.
During their win streak. In the last 224 games, dating back to 1999, they are 222-2.
Oh, I think I deserve like a $50 bill if I get this one right.
I could Sharpie a little 0 right here. We can make it.
I might need
we can make
that.
it a Benjamin.
Yeah. Okay, so they've won how many games in a row again?
They've won they had a 112-game win streak.
All right, so you figured probably close to almost 2/3 of that's probably home games. So let's go with 75.
75 game?
Yeah.
That's not even close. It is 98.
Wow.
Which is shocking.
Okay, no. Think about it. Like, did the game they lost before that streak started happen on the road? Because if that happened, then their streak could have gone back past that loss. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I guess that's
I believe the game was at home for Mountain Union.
Way back in 05?
No. This past game that they lost.
I know.
To
I know what you're saying here,
Carroll.
but like back when they started that win streak,
when they
in
started
05,
the win streak.
You'd have to look back.
Yeah, you'd have to, and I don't even think ESPN keeps track of D3.
No, this
is the only reason that made news is because it was a 112-game win streak.
That is absolutely
ridiculous. 98-game home win streak. We thought the Oculus has power.
Man, they're like the North Dakota State of Division II.
Games. That is incredible.
That's unbelievable.
Incredible.
Yep.
Until next time, the $10 bill, Old Hamilton's going back in the wallet. We'll see if you can.
I don't think even Mountain Union people would have gotten that right.
Well, I saw that and I was like, because remember, you burned me one time on the score because you got the score wrong. I was like, okay, I can't do the score again. And so I said, well, 112 game win streak. You probably saw that
there.
But first time they didn't win the conference championship in 24 years.
Wow,
that's hard to believe.
Huh. Yeah, that was like, wasn't there like a you know the sport squash? It's kind of like racquetball, but they use it's like badminton rackets. I think like either Penn State or like some school in Penn had like a 396 game streak or something like that.
Oh.
That's kind of what
I don't know anything about squash.
It made ESPN. That's kind of
head.
like what that is.
All right, now we're going to move on. We're going to look at the Power 5, and that wraps up the ref segment. So we're going to move on to one big thing from each of the Power 5 conferences, starting with the ACC. For me, I think Clemson's they're still driving the car, but they only have one hand on the wheel.
That's a good way to put it.
So they're still in control.
They all unlock their seatbelt a little bit.
But they're too busy, shuffling around in the back seat right now.
Mine was kind of similar. I said Clemson and Virginia Tech are in must-win situations next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech with a questionable loss to Georgia Tech, 30-20. I mean,
Georgia Tech's one
Georgia Tech now 6-4,
so you just never know.
Yep, and I guess the same for Clemson, an upset loss to Pitt. So big weekends coming up. I think Virginia Tech plays Notre Dame this weekend, so that won't be an ACC game technically, but they have Virginia the last game of the year, so that'll be where they win it.
Good matchup.
Yep.
Moving on, Big Ten. I see Penn State or Wisconsin. They have a viable chance of winning the Big Ten. If Ohio State can pull off and beat Michigan, if they're able to take down Michigan, and it's at home for Ohio State. And I know I've been high on Michigan all year,
But now with an injured quarterback?
Yeah, with their quarterback situation, and there's only a couple weeks left in the year, I'm just not confident that they can recover.
Even with a full health Wilton Spate, the quarterback from Michigan, I'd still think Ohio State would probably get the nod there. I mean, at home, they're playing a lot better than Michigan is at this point, and Iowa exposed them, that's for sure.
Yep.
The Big 12, now we keep bringing them up and down, like you were saying. My big thing was, if anyone remembers that Oklahoma State Central Michigan game, I think it was like week 2, where they had that Hail Mary down the field to win it. Central Michigan ended up winning.
Gosh, I think I may.
But the clock ran out. I don't know if that was the whole debate. Like the clock ran out, the refs never saw it, and that ended up counting. Oklahoma State's 8-2 right now. If that game would have been called correctly, they'd be 9-1 and probably top 10 right now.
Easily.
We'd be talking about them possibly making the playoff.
Yeah.
So that game
lost to Central Michigan.
That game's looming large right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have that either. So that's coming back to haunt the Big 12. That's what I had.
Mine is Oklahoma's out there. I don't care what the pundits.
Oklahoma?
I don't care. Yeah, because Oklahoma playing West Virginia. Think about it. They're only 2-loss team right now. They're both.
So you saying Oklahoma's out
of the playoff picture?
I thought you just brought up like 20 minutes ago that they could have.
I'm saying that they're going to get the hype. I don't necessarily buy the hype because this is like the 5th time this show that we've said, well, the Big 12 is out, and then the next week we go, okay, the Big 12 is out again, and it's a continuation. Even if Oklahoma beats West Virginia,
I got to play Oklahoma State too. That's an end of the year game.
Speaking
of not deserving any hype, Pac-12. Colorado is sneaking up the polls right now. I believe they're going to be top 10 this week.
Yes.
They're 8-2. Their best win is Arizona State. What do we make of Colorado? Not many people are talking about it.
I mean, there's really nothing else going on in the Pac-12 besides Washington. So
and they're currently leading the Pac-12
They feel like
South
they've got to give Colorado the benefit of the doubt. It's been forever since Colorado was...
Since that East 60 came out about them, going way back.
So I don't really know what to make of Colorado. I haven't really watched them play as much as I would have liked to this year.
I don't think they'll get in the playoff. I think that's a stretch.
No, but they have the potential to get into a good bowl game.
A Rose Bowl.
And you never know. Yeah. I mean, winning a quality bowl game can do a lot for a program, especially one like Colorado.
This could bring them.
My big thing from the Pac-12 was Washington. I think they hurt their reputation amongst the national audience more than their college football playoff chances.
And you know what really is going to come back to haunt them now is their strength of schedule, especially out of conference.
Right, and again, I mean, I think that in terms of playoff potential, they're fine. If they win the Pac-12, they're in. However, perception-wise, it didn't do them any favors to lose.
They looked unbeatable.
To USC of all teams.
And this is like one of the first couple of weeks where people have been like, you can't even debate it anymore. Washington deserves to be in. And they blew it.
Yeah, then they went around
and
blew it.
Unlike the blew it kicker from Pitt.
SEC, we talked about this prior, at least for my big thing. Bama's a lock for the college football playoff.
It's not much even going on in the SEC anymore.
It's the East is a crapshoot, and I think Bama's going to roll with that one.
Yeah, my big thing, it wasn't even that big. A&M just increasing people's doubts. I mean, you have Trevor Knight go down for the year. You lose to Ole Miss, who doesn't even have Chad Kelly. We can write them off. Now, knowing the committee, they'll probably still be top 10.
Yeah.
But they don't deserve it.
Yeah. Now, that was our one big thing from all the Power 5 conferences. We're going to move on now. We're going to do a bit of a new segment because Blind Resumes is pretty much done because everybody
doesn't even matter anymore. Nope.
So we're going to look at playoff scenarios, and you have come up with different.
I've got 3, kind of like we did with the Halloween segment.
Are they nightmare scenarios, or are they like?
Well, the first 2 are pretty simple, but they're very realistic.
So what am I predicting?
You were going to tell me your top 4, who the top 4 would be if I gave you these situations that would happen. All right?
Okay.
So first situation here we got here. Alabama, undefeated, they win the SEC. They're a lock.
Okay.
Penn State wins the Big Ten at 11-2. Clemson wins the ACC, 12-1. Washington State wins the Pac-12 at 11-2. And that leaves you with Louisville, Ohio State, and let's throw in West Virginia with 1 loss.
Oh, wow. Is West Virginia the Big
12 champ?
And they only have 1 loss right now?
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's 1. Clemson's 2.
Penn State is in there as well, the Big Ten.
Who won the Pac-12?
Washington State. Mike Leach is getting it in.
West Virginia is going to get the 3, and I think in that case, I think Wisconsin. Who won the Big Ten?
Penn State.
Penn State's in 4, so Washington State gets shunned.
So you don't think Ohio?
Because Penn State.
So you don't think a 1-loss Ohio State team gets in?
Penn State's wins against
Ohio State
and Wisconsin are more
They didn't beat
impressive.
Wisconsin, did they? I don't think they beat Wisconsin.
Well, they would
Penn
have
State?
if they win the Big Ten.
Oh, I see what you mean.
If,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
they win the Big Ten, they're going to have to beat
That's true.
Wisconsin.
True. Good point.
So that looks more impressive than Washington, because
State.
Washington State would beat Washington, and who would they play in the Pac-12 championship?
Colorado or Utah?
Oh, that does look like a good win.
Colorado would be a top 10 team going into that.
I still think in that particular, that's crazy, but I think in that particular instance, you would give the nod to Penn State rather than Washington State.
Talk about
That
a top-heavy
is
playoff there.
Close.
Alabama, Clemson, Penn State, West Virginia. Whew.
Yeah, West Virginia, I think they could sneak. I think if they had one loss, I think they would sneak in, and I don't expect that to happen, but I think they would sneak in.
They sunk down the polls when they lost, and they still have one loss. So, I mean, it's theoretically possible. All right, scenario 2. Bama wins again, undefeated, SEC champs. This time, Wisconsin wins the Big Ten,
Okay.
11-2. Washington wins out, they win the Pac-12. Clemson wins the ACC, and then you have Ohio State and Louisville, both with one loss.
Okay. Alabama's in at 1, Clemson's at 2, Washington's at 3.
Clemson is in there too?
Yes,
And Wisconsin.
Clemson's at 2, and Washington's at 3, and then the Big Ten champion is in there,
Okay.
which is Wisconsin, because
Alright.
Wisconsin will have beaten Penn State, and who else has Wisconsin?
They beat Nebraska.
Wisconsin has
they-
beaten
LSU.
Now they did lose to Michigan and Ohio State.
That's where I was kind of bringing,
if
especially
Ohio State went undefeated,
the rest of the year.
yeah, they could jump
And
Wisconsin.
also, I mean, it shouldn't happen,
I-
but
it's just
Ohio State could get the nod over Washington too.
it's tough because we don't know does the committee value a conference championship more than they value a head-to-head?
That's where you really find out.
That's like apples to oranges, honestly, in my opinion. I mean,
And especially because Ohio State would have one loss as opposed to two losses.
and
for
Wisconsin only lost to Michigan at Michigan by a touchdown. They only lost to Ohio State at home
in
by a
overtime,
touchdown.
by a touchdown, yeah.
So, that's
tough. Yeah, the committee would really have to work for that.
Tough.
Yep.
Tough. Now, if you look at Wisconsin's schedule, and I know that these teams are not ranked there currently, but at the time of the game, if you look at their schedule, they've played 5 top 10 teams.
Now,
Again, that's
That
not how
only
they're.
goes so
That's
far.
not what they're saying. But LSU has made a bit of a rebound, so let's give
That's
them
a
a
good
little bit of
win.
credit. They
Okay.
won that opener at Michigan State.
stop right there.
They've fallen off a little bit. I agree. Then you
little
have at Michigan they lost. Ohio State they lost. They did beat Nebraska, and there's really not going to be anything else on their schedule except for Minnesota. If they can close with a big win against Minnesota and win the Big Ten,
Yeah.
there's a legitimate argument that they could get in over Ohio State
But that is
with a one loss.
It's not exactly a clean slate there. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh no, that's
for
that's
the conferences.
All
All
great.
right, moving on. Scenario 3. Alabama loses a game to Auburn, but they still win the SEC.
Okay.
We'll figure they're in. Michigan wins the Big Ten. Colorado wins the Pac-12 at 11-2. Oklahoma wins the Big 12. And then you have, this is the complicated one. So you have Alabama, Michigan, Colorado, and Oklahoma as the conference champs. You then have Clemson at 11-2, Ohio State at 10-2.
What happened to Clemson?
We ended up losing the
Who won the
ACC.
ACC?
Virginia Tech. But are you really going to put a 3-loss Virginia Tech team in the playoff?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. You have Clemson and Ohio
Well,
State.
then the ACC's out.
You don't think Clemson would get in?
No.
2 losses?
No, not to a 3-loss Virginia Tech team.
Ohio State is 10-2. Louisville's 11-1. Penn State's 10-2. Washington's 11-2.
Start from the top.
Okay, so
Alabama
Alabama.
lost to Auburn. They're still in because they won the SEC. They're the 1 seed.
Michigan wins the Big Ten,
What's their record?
12-1.
They're the 2 seed.
Colorado wins the Pac-12 at 11-2.
They're the 4 seed
Oklahoma wins the Big 12 at 11-2.
They're the 3 seed.
3 seed. So you put Oklahoma above all the rest?
because they have more credibility than Colorado.
And Louisville?
Yeah, Louisville might be 5, but they're not going to get into the top 4.
And an Ohio State team that beat them 45-24 earlier in the year?
Yeah, Ohio State wouldn't get in.
Hmm.
It'd be
That'd
tough.
be interesting.
It would be tough. It would be, honestly, I could see it between an Ohio State at 5 and a Colorado at 4, and maybe Louisville at 6 and Clemson at 7. Clemson would not get in.
Amazing. Colorado can make the playoff. That is unbelievable.
If they do what they need to do, and chaos occurs, which as we see
at this point
can happen.
If that happens, the committee is basically, all right, if you win your conference championship, you're in, and you have 2 losses, you're in. It doesn't even factor in who's the best team. If Colorado gets in, they're not better than Ohio State.
I think a 2-loss conference champion can get in as a lower seed, but I do not think a 3-loss conference champion. There's just even the SEC. I think
this is where we need 8 teams, because then you could have the Power 5. Whoever wins gets in. You could have a group of 5, and then you could have 2 at-larges. That'd be perfect. All right, well, that was 3 different scenarios. You handled that pretty well. We'll move on to our playoff teams, which I'm sure are very different this year.
Yeah,
this week.
They've mixed up a good bit. I'm going to let you start off.
Okay, all right.
And you can start with your top 4 and your first couple.
I'll go top to bottom. I had Bama at 1. No debate there. I slid Ohio State up to 2 because of everyone else losing. Mm-hmm. I kept Clemson at 3 based on a head-to-head. It was a close loss, and just compared to the other teams that were there, I think Clemson still deserves to be 3rd based on their wins.
Okay.
I had Louisville at 4.
Wow.
Louisville at 4.
My goodness.
I think you got to put them in. They have the best loss at this point. I know they haven't looked as good, but neither of the other teams now that they're losing. Mm-hmm. I still think Louisville is the better team compared to Michigan and Washington, so I would put Louisville at 4.
Okay, now who's your first couple out?
Well, I was going to have Michigan at 5. It all kind of depends on Wilton Spate's health. So if he's not there, I might slide him down. 6, I had Wisconsin, just based on how they've played this year and their really close losses. I think they're a very strong candidate. And then you want to keep going down the list. 7, I guess, would be Penn State. I guess you'd move them up. Or I guess Washington.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's my top 7.
Okay. Are you ready?
Doesn't look like yours are going to be the exact
same. Are you
same.
strapped in? All right.
Here we go.
Okay. We agree on the top 2.
Oh, good. You put Alabama. I thought you were going to put someone else at 1.
Who did you think I would put at 1?
Dude, I don't know. The look on your face.
Alabama's at 1, ladies and gentlemen. Anything else is...
You had Ohio State at 2?
Ohio State's at 2.
All right, here we go.
And here's where things get dicey. At number 3, I have Wisconsin.
Really?
I do. I have Wisconsin.
So you're not a big fan of head-to-head then?
At 3. I have Michigan at 4. Now, the only reason, if you look at
3 Big Ten teams in the top 4?
That's the first thing I noticed when I typed this out. I was like, wait a second. But then I thought about it, and I said, now hold on.
Big Ten bias.
There has to be... We've talked about the Clemson loss. I know it was close, but if you think about it, we really should have lost to NC State too. So we very easily...
You could have said Wisconsin could have lost to Georgia
Could have
State.
been. We were a 33-yard field goal away against being a 2-loss team and being pretty much out of the playoff picture. So let's just, for the sake of argument, Clemson is not as good as, we've...
You think Wisconsin's a better team than Clemson?
They're playing like it right now. Clemson continues to have turnover problems. They continue to have lack. I mean, I know Deshaun throws the ball 70 times a game, but that's not realistic. Gallman has not done as well as he did.
They haven't given him the ball.
They've given him the ball. He just doesn't go up the field with it. I don't know if it could be part of the offensive line. His offensive line is not great, but at the same time, we have not seen. I mean, it can't just be the Deshaun Watson's show on offense. You have to have other. I mean,
put Feaster in for God's sake.
Yeah, there just hasn't been the same kind of chemistry that I saw with Clemson last year.
Who's your 5th?
I have Clemson at 5. I have Washington at 6, and I have Louisville at 7.
Man, no respect for Louisville.
No, because when I look at games like Wake Forest, and that's not the only game that they've struggled against. If I pull up Louisville's schedule, they have, and I know Clemson's had their fair share of struggles, but I mean, they've had close wins against Duke, close wins against UVA, and Wake Forest, I know the final score didn't really reflect it.
It was 23-12 in the 4th quarter.
But it was close.
It
was like, what is Louisville? Louisville actually could lose the game if Wake Forest could just have gotten a couple of first downs.
I'm a big doubter of Washington, though, now, just after they almost...
Washington, that's the reason I had them down to 6, because I originally had Washington at 5 and Clemson at 6, and then I was like, Washington's loss was worse because, like we talked about at the top of the show, they were pretty much out of that game after 3 quarters.
Okay.
So again, Alabama's at 1, Ohio State's at 2. Nobody's really questioning
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Wisconsin at 3 is more of I had to bump Michigan down. I understand Wisconsin.
That's where I don't like it.
I understand Wisconsin lost to Michigan. However, I think that Wisconsin has a good chance, from what I've seen these last few weeks, they have a good chance of winning the Big Ten.
They do.
As good a chance as Michigan, especially with the fact that Michigan's quarterback is now questionable.
Yeah, if we're going to go on best chance to make the playoff.
So you have to kind of sit back up for a minute and go, well, okay, now Michigan's not looking as good as they were.
Now, you did lose me when you said you have to put Michigan down just because they lost a game. You sound like an AP poll voter then.
Well, now you saw the USC writer who voted Clemson out of the top 25 because of that and that made national
Where was the writer
headlines.
from again?
Well, he's from Columbia. Did you see that? That was all over Twitter, and that's part of the reason why the AP poll is
okay. Well,
antiquated.
We won't listen to
joke.
him.
But regardless, again, Clemson at 5. I put them there because their overall season performance in different games. I know they've had good wins and such, but there have been moments in the season where we've just been scratching our head. And it's been like, okay, we've got it. We know that we can't do that or play like that against a top caliber team.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Deshaun, 3 interceptions.
That was true.
That is just, you can't do that against an Alabama, an Ohio State, or even a Wisconsin or a Michigan.
When you look at last week's poll, though, we had Clemson at 2. Where was Wisconsin? They were like 7 or 8, right?
I'll pull up. I didn't have Wisconsin in my top 6 2 weeks ago.
So they have 2 losses.
Played better. They've played better than these other teams. Clemson lost, and they lost, again, it was another close game, but they still couldn't pull it out. Michigan lost. It was a close game, but they couldn't pull it out. And Washington looked a little flat, to be honest with you, against USC.
Washington, I'm bumping them way down. They didn't deserve it. That was their, they broke everything there. Once they lost to USC.
Well, they still deserve it if they win the Pac-12. There's no question.
That's true. I mean, at this point, I don't think they're a top 4 team.
And I know there's 3 teams from the Big Ten, and how can you do that? But for right now, obviously Ohio State is cemented in there until they just screw up or other teams start winning conference championships. And Wisconsin, when I look at the other 4 teams that are there, Michigan, Clemson, Washington, and Louisville, three of those teams lost, and Louisville played poorly.
Okay. All right. 3. So we have 3 and 4. We have up for grabs: Clemson, Louisville, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Basically, those 4 teams, right, vying for 3 and 4.
Well, Washington.
Right. Well, okay, but Washington's not going to get 3 or 4 at this point. I don't think they will. I don't think they're one of the top 4 best teams in the country.
They will be if they win the Pac-12. They're going to get
True,
in.
But I'm ranking them right now. This week.
Okay,
this
right
week.
now.
I don't think they don't deserve
I think
it.
Washington's better than Louisville. Because on a week-to-week basis, I know Washington lost in disappointing fashion this weekend, but on a week-to-week basis, Louisville has looked slack.
They have looked slack, and I know there's not a lot riding for them right now.
Against Wake Forest.
Yeah, but
And I respected Louisville. I still do. I respect Lamar Jackson and their ability to make you look silly, but
they haven't lost those games.
It's every other week that I feel like I'm saying, why is Louisville looking so flat?
And Louisville hasn't completely been exposed, I think, by some of these teams. They did win the game. Let's not forget that. They did find a way to win.
Fair
and winning
enough.
close games, you don't have to blow everyone out, like Bobby Petrino was saying.
Well, that's Clemson.
If you win the game, you win the game.
We win the close games,
Exactly.
but eventually
that says a lot if you find a way to win the game.
They catch up to you.
Yeah, Washington, I mean, if you look at their, I know you don't like strength of schedule, their non-conference schedule is dead last in the
It doesn't
country.
matter what their strength of schedule is. If they win the Pac-12, they're in.
No, I'm not.
They may
debating
not
that.
be right, and I have them at 6. And you know I was high on Washington. I still
They're
am.
not top 4 team right now. Yeah,
But
they
that's
will be
why
if
I
they
don't
get
have
in.
them in the top 4.
Yep, I know.
I mean, look, is my top 4 unfair? Who do you think?
I definitely see where you're coming from. I think Michigan, especially with the quarterback situation now, I don't think they really deserve to be in the top 4. Especially
Well, I
after
have them at 4.
Well, they did look really flat at Iowa, and they have their quarterback injured.
So did
possibly
Clemson,
half
and
the
so
year.
did Washington, and so did
They
Louisville.
didn't lose their quarterback though. That hurts a lot. That hurts a lot.
I understand, but Deshaun threw 3 interceptions, and the whole. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in the stands for the game this weekend, it never really. Well, no, you weren't there.
No, I was
It
on a
was
wedding.
never
I
really.
wasn't
It
there.
wasn't
Nope.
the same type of atmosphere. It was just
think I was-
kind of like, okay, we're here. We got to play Pitt.
It's almost
Let's
like a
get
half
this
season to get to.
over
Yeah.
with. It was like playing an FCS team, and I was like, okay, why are we underestimating Pitt? And then all of a sudden, they won.
Yeah.
So I know that all this will change probably next week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with the Big Ten, this will all shuffle out. But for right now, I think Wisconsin at 3 is not
I see
much
where
of a
your
stretch.
argument is, and I can't. To me, I just can't put them all the way up there just based on a little bit that happened, and they beat Illinois. Can't raise them all the way up there yet. Mm-hmm. Remains to be seen how they play the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I still think you got to give Clemson their due and keep them in the top 4. Just based
I
on
don't
one
know.
loss.
I wouldn't say that's a due. That's
Just based on one loss. I mean, I know they haven't playing.
That's not their right. They're not obligated to get the top 4 because
lost
they're
one
Clemson.
game this year, and they have
so is
great wins.
they have great wins. They've only beaten Louisville.
I know Wisconsin didn't win the game. Yeah, they competed in the games they played, but they didn't win the game. They didn't beat Michigan. They didn't beat Ohio State.
They lost by a touchdown, so it was
They
close.
didn't win the game though.
Fair enough, but just because Clemson has one loss does not mean that they are obligated to have a top 4 spot. It's not reserved for them.
Oh, I mean, just look at
They have to win the ACC. If Clemson,
course, yeah.
if Clemson let's just say that Clemson finishes the season 11-1 and loses to Virginia Tech,
They're
a
not gonna
2-loss
get in.
Clemson does not get in.
Nope.
No way. So they've got to win the ACC. If Clemson wants to get into the playoff, they are right now, again, they have a hold of the steering wheel. It's just with only one hand.
Okay.
They don't have 2 hands on the wheel anymore.
Yeah, but at this point, I'm just ranking the top 4 teams, and I think these are the 4 best teams. I'd take Clemson over Michigan right now. Just looking at
Get rid of that turnover bug.
Yeah, but looking at the way that Michigan played, they only scored 13 points against Iowa. At least we scored 42
And
points.
Clemson turned the ball over in the red zone.
We still had 42
twice.
points with that. So our offense looks
It was
so
at
much
home.
better.
It was at home.
And let's remember here, Iowa lost to North Dakota State.
Again, I think Michigan has some questions now with the quarterback situation. We'll see. I mean, if they can't figure that out, then you better be sure they're going to
trouble.
drop like a rock.
Yep.
And then you've got Clemson up there and Washington. And I still think, again, Louisville is on the outside looking in. There is no scenario without major chaos that gives them a remote
I still think they're
chance of making
closer,
it.
though, at least with these teams losing. I mean, obviously, they're in a better
No, they
chance
all need to
than
lose
before.
again. Louisville has one loss, and so are all these teams. And all the other teams.
Clemson, though,
with-
I mean, it was a great game.
Yes, but all the other teams with Louisville, like Michigan, Clemson, and Washington, are all in positions to win their respective conference championships.
I know,
Louisville's
I know.
not going to win their conference championship. They already know this.
Which is what I don't like about this whole conference championship thing. It depends on who you. I know you win a Pac-12
What it
championship, but if you
should
beat
be-
Colorado,
there should
then
be divisions. The
Yeah.
division crap is
that is garbage.
yeah.
Because
It
then you
should
have.
be the 2 best teams. Clemson and Louisville rematch.
Yeah.
How epic would that be?
You sound like a Big Ten commissioner right now, saying or Big 12 commissioner, I should say, we're taking our top 2 teams and they're playing for the championship.
Yep.
I would love to see that.
I don't like divisions.
Because then you wouldn't
like
have Florida going to the SEC championship game.
I don't like
They don't
divisions.
deserve it. Anyway,
Well, that was a little bit less confrontational than I thought it was going to be. Because I thought when I had 3 Big Ten teams in the top 4, let me tell you, as soon as I typed that up, I was like, he's going to chew me out.
I want to chew you out. It's just kind of hard for me to put my words to it and what I want to say. It is arguable.
I mean-
the more you talk about it, it is arguable. I love
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
yeah.
I think they deserve to be up there. Now, top 4, not yet. Maybe later, but not yet.
There's nobody else, though. Who else is deserving? They all lost. Louisville had to go to the 4th quarter to beat Wake. Who else
Their
do you
only
put up
loss is to
there?
Clemson. They're 12 yards from being undefeated. If they were undefeated, what would you
Yeah,
say?
and we're a
about it?
33-yard field goal from being not, what,
We won the
8
game.
and 2.
We won the game. Wisconsin,
Barely.
Georgia State, it's the same thing.
Barely. Moving on. We're going to move on to Twitter polls and questions.
Okay.
Do you have any
I
of
don't
those pulled
think-
up?
Let me
Anybody
see if anybody
tweeted in? We may
see if
have
anybody
some
tweeted in here. We
questions.
might have had some. All right. After
Yeah, everybody's too
review.
busy right now because
No one knows what
Well,
to ask after the.
well,
Yep.
the week before Thanksgiving break, everybody's trying to get taken care of, and
Trying to process what happened this
yeah,
past weekend.
especially well, I don't think campus really felt too.
I think the losses for Michigan and Washington definitely helped us. That helped
Yes,
ease
no,
the pain
absolutely,
a little bit more.
But just the environment of campus after a loss, it didn't
Yeah.
really seem too terribly different.
No,
The
so
fog was a little ominous, but
I
it's
did
been
have-
hazy here for the last week.
did have a couple questions that my mom sent in, actually. She wanted to know. She's following college football a little bit this year, and she would like to know, let's see, we got a few questions. What needs to happen for Clemson to stay in the top 4 to make it through to the championship?
They just need to win the ACC.
We need to win the ACC. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're pretty much locked in if they win the ACC there. That one loss wasn't too tragic.
Yep.
All right, this is an interesting question. At this point, do you think it's better for Clemson to be the 2 or 3 seed and play in Arizona? Or would you rather see them play in Atlanta as the 4 seed, but have to play Bama?
No, you don't want to play in Bama.
You don't want to play Bama?
Nope.
Nope. So you'd rather see them play in Arizona?
Yeah.
All right. I
And
can agree with that.
championship would be where?
It would be in Tampa.
Okay. Yeah,
Championship
championship
would be in
game
Tampa.
because we had a better chance of winning out in Arizona than we do against Bama.
You know how sweet it'd be to knock out Bama though first round and have
I'd take a
State
rematch
or
in the
Colorado to
championship.
play?
I'd take a championship rematch.
Good point. It would be cool though to be able to go to that game in Atlanta though. That would be fun. So we only had a few questions.
I
think people didn't even know what to ask.
And again, it's looking ahead to the week preview. It's been a while since Clemson has had a regular season loss. So it's
Dabo hasn't had to make that speech in a while.
It's probably a different type of atmosphere of practice and so forth. Clemson obviously is going to be favored heavily, even though it's on the road. Wake Forest, though, not really to be underestimated. They're 6-4. I know they're only 3-3 in the conference.
Took Louisville to the fourth quarter,
but
it's on the road.
Who knows? And it's a 7:00 kickoff.
It's a night game.
It's another night game.
I think the fact that we're playing for a championship here, I know that didn't really do much for the Pitt game, but I think that'll add
on senior day.
Yeah,
playing to clinch your division at home, the best quarterback in your school history. Senior day.
Yeah. I think Pitt is arguably better than Wake Forest. Dabo mentioned this in his presser. Pitt's a few plays away. 8-2. Yeah. They beat Penn State earlier this year as well.
Yes.
They're not.
Yes.
And James Conner's, you don't want to mess around with him. He's a great running back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll probably have a little bit easier of a time. Hopefully, a little bit less stressful with Wake Forest. Hopefully, we don't turn the ball over in the red zone. Hopefully, we just try and run the ball. We did have one question actually just come in before we continue.
I saw that.
Jake Wassler, is Penn State viable for the college football playoff? Do you consider? I know we kind of talked about this earlier.
Yes, they're viable. They have a viable chance. All they need.
But let's not talk about chances here. Do you think they're a top 4 team at this point in the year?
I think they can contend with anybody in the top 4
outside of Bama.
So Penn State needs to get a 2 or a 3 seed.
To me, all they have is that Ohio State win. And that was
that's sometimes magic.
All right. Well, let me
never underestimate them. You just never know. I mean, at this point, I don't want to rule them out because look at what happened this weekend. You just never know.
Struggle with Indiana this week. They barely squeaked by on the road at Indiana. Did beat Ohio State, smacked Purdue, and they did smack Iowa. So they've been playing better. I'm still looking at the team that lost 49-10 to Michigan.
Anything's possible.
And just saying, I don't.
That's why I was high on Michigan at the start of the year. But now their quarterback has got issues. So I'm telling you, I think Penn State. All Ohio State has to do is beat a somewhat crippled Michigan team, and Penn State could very well be punching their ticket to Arizona or Atlanta.
They remind me of USC a lot. A team that just completely rejuvenated their season.
Hey, yeah, whatever. And LSU a little bit too.
LSU, yep, exactly. So,
but yeah, as far as the Clemson Wake Forest game, again to wrap up, not a whole lot that we really need to go over per se. It's a game that Clemson should win. They should win handily.
Probably won't.
Clemson's still coming in this game averaging almost 40 points a game. Wake's only averaging 20. Clemson's coming in averaging 500 yards a game. Wake's only averaging 300.
Yeah.
Now, Wake's, they're defensively they're giving up almost 400 points or 400 yards a game.
Almost 400.
Not
points.
400 points, 400 yards a game.
Yeah.
And they are averaging, allowing 152 rushing yards.
Ooh, Gallman, get ready,
Gallman can't have a day against the Demon Deacons.
We got a problem.
Then I don't know what he's declaring for the draft for.
All right, moving on. Real quick before we finish.
Yep.
5 games right here.
Who we got?
Rapid. We got Florida LSU. We got Colorado Washington State. Personally, my game of the week, I would say. UCLA USC, West Virginia Oklahoma, and obviously the Clemson game. Let's do a rapid fire predictions.
Yeah, let me pull up these games in the rankings so I can pull up the matchups. Where's that? Complete rankings?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, who's first? LSU.
LSU Florida, a made-up game from earlier this year.
And LSU right now is, I see they're at 16 in the AP poll.
I think they're 24 in the college football playoff, which is utterly ridiculous. So they'll be up there in the top 20.
Well, you're right, for the college football playoff, but that obviously hasn't been updated. So
now Florida, I think, has locked up the SEC East.
How does that work though? Because their Florida game's been postponed. Do we know if that's ever gonna? Their game, LSU's game against Florida.
What do you mean?
It was postponed. Has it been played?
They're playing this week.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, because I looked and I saw a blank.
2 this week.
I saw a blank and I was like, wait a second.
No, they're playing this week. So I want to know your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win this game? I'm personally going to go LSU if they can get their quarterback.
I think LSU is riding high, and I really think, especially with a win, a convincing win on the road against Arkansas, 38-10.
And a convincing performance against
I think
Bama.
Ogeron wins this game and further cements his candidacy for head coach of LSU.
Sign the papers. Let him be the coach. Yeah, Florida looked flat against Arkansas. Leaning more towards LSU. We'll see what happens
I think Tigers get it done.
Big game here. Colorado, Washington State. Two teams that, if they have any hope of making the playoff, need to win this game.
Yeah, Colorado and Washington State.
My personal pick, I've been high on Washington State since the very beginning of the season. I think Mike Leach is a great coach for them. And Luke Falk, how about his job at quarterback? He's had a great year for them.
I mean, Washington they're 7-0 in the conference right now.
Yeah.
Colorado is at 6-1. So if Colorado knows that if they lose this game, they're pretty much out of the Pac-12 hunt. So there's a lot going on the line for them.
I think would they lose the tiebreaker then? Did they play Utah already?
They
might. I don't know.
They may have already played.
Yeah.
I think that Colorado will get this one done. I think they're going to win.
Really?
I think Colorado wins. Because
they win this game, I'm convinced.
This is basically elimination for them.
Yep.
It's an elimination game. They must win if they want to stay in the hunt. And they're at 12, and there's a legit chance.
Man, they would be coming up. Yep.
Legit chance that they could, be knocking on the door of the top 4 not too long from now.
So we're split there. We'll see what happens there. Clemson game. I'm gonna go Clemson.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Tigers there. I think.
Just please win the ACC Atlantic.
I hope we can just take care of that by halftime.
Big 12 getting some spotlight here. We got West Virginia and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been playing very well as of late. Baker Mayfield
Critical
was
game,
working his way
really,
back.
for the Big 12.
I'm going to go Oklahoma just based on strength.
Really? No, I have more faith in West Virginia.
West Virginia?
I think they're scrappy. I think that, they're sitting at 8-1 right now.
I was high on West Virginia
and the game is home for them.
Yeah.
The game is at West Virginia, which is huge. And, their only loss this year was at Oklahoma State. So if they can beat Oklahoma, they have Iowa State and Baylor. And Baylor's kind of fallen off a little bit.
Collapsed. Yeah, I think
it's going to go 11-1.
I think it's going to be like a 45-38
game.
If
they do, I know I said earlier that the Big 12 is out.
Don't you dare count them out if West Virginia wins this game.
It's hard to ignore if West Virginia is able to win out,
especially when everyone high in Oklahoma. Name brand alone might get West Virginia some credibility.
Yeah, I'm going with the Mountaineers here.
All right, I'm going to go Oklahoma, but I think it's going to be a really close game. And then the last game here for the Pac-12, USC riding high off that win in Washington, playing a UCLA bunch that found the new quarterback. Maybe possible upset here. Rivalry game.
I mean, it's at UCLA, so it figures to be a good game. Like you said, it is a rivalry game. Trojans are 7-3, so they're probably going to get a pretty decent bowl game. I mean, 2 big games to end the year for USC.
Yeah.
At UCLA, and then they host the Fighting Irish, although
it's still
it's normally a big rivalry game. So I think I'm going to go with the Trojans. I think after a big win like Washington, I think they're psyched up. They're motivated. I think they're going to finish the season with 2 wins against UCLA and Notre Dame. They're going to go to 9-3, and I think they're going to win the bowl game. And I think USC is going to have a 10-win season.
Wow, they wouldn't have saw that coming week 1 when they got beat 52-6.
No.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, their quarterback.
Their 3 losses came in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we wrote them off early.
I think that they're going to get 10 wins.
Sam Darnold, quarterback for USC. What a job he's done. They finally found a quarterback, and that's really the reason they're coming back now at this point.
I think I'll
go USC as well.
I think they're going to ride, the momentum throughout the rest of the year.
So we only split the Colorado game? We'll see how that goes.
No,
Washington State.
We split.
Oh, and we did split this one too.
We split 3 games. The only games that we didn't split were Clemson, Wake Forest, and LSU Gators.
We both picked USC.
Oh, I thought you picked UCLA.
I picked USC.
Okay, so we're going Trojans. Then you picked Sooners.
Sorry,
I
Bruins.
picked Mountaineers.
Jim Moore's
both on the Tigers. I got the
Buffaloes.
And you have the Cougs, and we both got the other Tigers.
The other,
as they say.
The other Death Valley.
Now is that game at Florida?
I think I can't exactly remember.
I'll have to, let's see. LSU is playing. No, it's a home game for them.
In the
I think LSU.
Death Valley.
I think LSU will win that game.
Real quick, before we wrap up the game, before we wrap up the show, I should say, an under-the-radar game no one's talking about this week. The Citadel, if everyone remembers last year, I know South Carolina does.
They're undefeated.
They are 10-0 in the FCS right now.
And they're in the top 5, aren't they? In the FCS
ranking?
ranking?
They got to be up there.
Playing
Playing UNC with a chance to clear out North and South Carolina back-to-back years. Think they can get it done?
Wow.
UNC,
obviously the game's at UNC.
Duke.
It's at UNC.
Think the Bulldogs can get it done?
I can't really.
The fact that they're 10-0 should scare UNC.
I mean, UNC's sitting at 7-3. They did lose to Duke by a point.
With their defense
I think they
struggling?
beat the Citadel. I think they beat.
All
This,
right.
I think they beat. I think it's close. I think it's a good game.
Oh, I can't wait to watch
Because
that.
the Citadel, I want to see if I can pull up their schedule.
Yeah, it might. You won't
It
be able
may
to
not.
They don't,
Yeah,
I don't think they have it
ESPN
on
doesn't
there.
have it for FCS. But no, Citadel's legit. They're 10-0. That doesn't give you an excuse, Carolina. However,
Talking about South Carolina?
yes.
Ah, okay.
I think UNC will take care of business. I think they'll win. I think they'll pull out in the fourth quarter.
Okay. All right. Be an interesting game though. No one's talking
They'll
about
hang
it.
around though.
They absolutely will.
Bulldogs are legit.
Yep.
So them and I think is it Coastal?
Coastal's-
Or ECU that always hangs around. That's really good from
it's
our
Coastal,
area.
isn't it?
It's in the FCS.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
So
always make things interesting.
those kinds of games are always fun to watch.
Oh yeah, you
Because
love
that game will probably be on TV. It's
Oh,
probably a
absolutely.
Good coverage opportunity for the.
I wonder if they'll put the number that Citadel is ranked in the FCS. They did it last year
Yeah.
when they played South Carolina. They put the number 5 team in the country.
Yeah, because they can feel better about the
Ah,
fact
there
that
you
they
go.
lost.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us. It's been another fun week.
I've enjoyed it.
And we'll look forward to doing it again next Monday. So for Bradley Kendall, I'm Jay Smith, and this has been After Further Review.
Thanks for watching as always. All right, Freddie.